Episode 45, The Beautiful Warm Villa. It was nearing the end of the year, and the holiday season was fast approaching. For Ken and his wife, Taylor, after some thorough considerations, they decided that it was about time that they went for a vacation. Work had been hectic for the past few months, and they knew that a tropical island would allow them to de-stress and take a break from the freezing weather back home. But with all the excitement that they were feeling, little did they realize that the tropical island had a horrifying history in store for them. They initially picked a place that was closer to home, but seeing the cost of expenses and accommodation there, they decided to select another tropical island much further away, but with a much lower daily expense cost. And after days of thorough research and comparison for the accommodations on the island, they eventually settled for a villa located deep into the island, which would take them at least 30 minutes by car to go to the main night market area. And although it was a little far from the main tourist spot, they knew just by looking at the photos that their villa would be beautiful and spacious and much more serene than their 500-square-foot apartment that they lived in. So the day finally came for their trip, as they had long looked forward to a therapeutic break on the tropical island. As their boat was about to arrive, they immediately saw how clear the waters were and how the white sands beautifully sat on the seabed. They just couldn't wait to get started and enjoy what the island had to offer. Once they arrived on the dock, they were given a warm welcome before a staff member guided them on a golf cart and brought them to their accommodation. While still on the golf cart approaching the resort, they saw a number of single villas spread across the area, and they were excited at the idea that one of those incredible villas would be where they would stay for the week. The golf cart drove through the front layer of villas before it eventually reached theirs. They opened the door and were so happy to see a large bedroom with a separate dining room and their own private pool. As they were happily resting in their villa's living room, that was when Ken began to feel uncomfortable and realized that the discomfort was due to him feeling weirdly warm. Ken then asked Taylor, "Hey babe, is it just me, or does the room feel oddly hot even though the AC is on?" "Okay then, it's not just me feeling that way. I initially thought that it was just me who felt that," said Taylor. "Maybe it's just us trying to get accustomed to the humidity here. It should be fine after a while, I hope," said Ken. "Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess we're really so used to the cold weather back home," said Taylor. They didn't think too much about it afterwards and settled in before going out for the day's outdoor activities. They came back late in the afternoon as they wanted to take a short break before getting ready for dinner and enjoy their first taste of the nightlife on the island. But as they were resting, Ken then said, "Okay, babe, this is really strange. It feels even warmer than before. I'm no weather guy, but shouldn't it get cooler instead now that it is in the late afternoon and the sun is beginning to set?" "That's a good point, babe. This is so weird. And I could feel the cold wind of the AC, but it feels so warm inside," said Taylor. "Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, I'm going to call the receptionist for help. There's no way we could sleep tonight if it continues to feel this warm," said Ken. After Ken called the receptionist to tell them about the odd problem that the couple were facing, one of the staff members came almost immediately. The staff member then said, "Oh, sir, ma'am, I'm not sure why you're feeling warm, because I honestly feel really cold in here. The AC is also at its lowest, and I checked that there doesn't seem to be any problem. But let me call my colleague to get a second opinion." The staff member's colleague came, and he too said that the room felt really cold to him. That's okay then. Maybe we're just not yet accustomed to the tropical island weather. We'll just have to get used to it," said Ken. "Okay, sir, but do call us again if you're still uncomfortable," said one of the staff members. Right after the staff members left, the couple then got ready and left for dinner. When they were out, Ken felt weird as he stopped feeling warm right after leaving the villa. This didn't make sense to Ken, but he tried to reason out that it was possibly a ventilation issue in the villa that was making it really warm. However, as they just wanted to unwind during the holiday and not overthink, Ken and Taylor enjoyed the night away before eventually coming back to their villa way past midnight. As they were really tired from their first day filled with activities, Ken and Taylor immediately headed for the bed and went to sleep. But in the middle of the night, Ken woke up as he felt really warm again. He glanced beside him and saw that Taylor was still asleep but looked uncomfortable, with perspiration flowing down her forehead and neck. Ken then tapped on Taylor's shoulder repeatedly and said, "Babe, wake up. Are you feeling the heat as well?" Taylor woke up with an irritated look on her face and said, "Oh my goodness, the heat is getting extremely annoying. I feel as though my skin is burning, as though I had been suntanning for a long time." Ken then replied and said, "I know, this is getting really weird." So Ken immediately called for the receptionist again, and one of the staff members came over. It was a different staff member this time around, and he too said that the room felt really cold and couldn't figure out why Ken and his wife were perspiring so much. That was when they decided to call a senior manager of the resort. The senior manager came, and in the room itself, Ken then saw the senior manager scolding the staff member in their local language. The manager then said to Ken, "I'm terribly sorry, sir, for what had happened. We will move you to another room right away. We will explain the details later." Confused and not knowing what was going on, Ken just said, "Okay, sure." Once the couple were brought to another villa, they felt much better and cold with the AC on, as how the staff felt all this while. Ken then asked the senior manager, "That is so weird. How can it feel so cold in one room and so hot in the other? Was there something wrong with the room?" "Yes, sir, we're very sorry to have placed you in that room earlier. It was our fault," said the senior manager. "What do you mean? I mean, the room you gave us was great. It was beautiful. It was just so very warm," said Taylor. "Yes, sir, ma'am. That is because the room had a past, and although it looks good now, it's not ready yet for our guests to stay." "Okay, may I know what do you exactly mean by that?" asked Ken. "The room, sir. I guess I can share with you since it was all over the news. A few years ago, when I just began working here, there was a family of 4 who stayed in this room. The room was all fine when they checked in. However, on their final night in the room when they were asleep, none of us knew that there was a gas leakage. Then there was somehow a sudden spark of fire which triggered the leakage and set the entire villa ablaze. We tried to help while waiting for the fire department, but the fire was just too strong that we just couldn't enter to save them," said the senior manager. "Oh my God, that is so sad," said Ken. After a brief silence, Ken continued and said, "And in some sort of strange connection, you're saying that it is the reason why the room feels so hot?" "Yes, sir. So, after the remains of the villa were completely demolished, it was left unattended. It was only recently that we rebuilt the villa again. But ever since we rebuilt that villa, we engaged a spiritual healer who said that the spirits of the family who suffered could still be felt in the room and that no guest should be allowed to stay here. Well, at least not until he could finally have the spirits move on," said the senior manager. "Thanks for letting us know, but it was just odd to me and my wife that it was only us who felt hot, while the rest of your staff couldn't feel the heat that we were feeling," said Ken. "That is because, as the healer shared with us, you're the ones staying here. So whoever stays here will slowly get sucked into the burning pain that the family felt before they passed away. Since we knew that, we were not supposed to give you that room. I think our new staff member didn't know about the instructions from the healer, so he gave the room to you," said the senior manager. "I see, but no worries, at least now the problem is solved. But we still feel very sorry for the family, and I really hope that it never happens to anyone else ever again," said Ken. For the rest of their holiday vacation, Ken and Taylor no longer felt the warm, sun-burning feeling from their initial villa, and although they were able to enjoy the rest of their trip without any further hiccups, the incident that happened years ago still played on the back of their minds. They thought about how the family came to just have a good time with one another, without realizing that the end was nearing for them, and it all happened in an instant, without having the time to think, react, and most importantly, say goodbye to each other for one final time. It was a villa that will forever have an horrific story, and will always be known as the Holiday Villa with a fiery past.